Santiago, I met you over a month ago now at Lochgur, and I'd been chatting to you through. Had I been chatting to you through Instagram at that stage about, because you're working with the Fairly Council of Ireland.
Yes.
And we were talking about basically helping each other out with our Wolf Academy and what yous are doing, collaborating in some way. So that's how we got talking first. Met you at Lochgur. Great weekend we spent down at Stonehenge. Is it Stonehenge?
The Stonehenge is the one in...
It's one in England.
Oh, fuck.
Cut that out.
I'll leave it in. I fucked up. What's it called again?
It's usually called Lochgur Stone Circle, but I think the actual name is Grange Stone Circle. Maybe that's what confuses me.
Yeah.
Grange Stone Circle is I think apparently the actual name of it. Doing some briar cleaning and recovering of the space.
And I found you to be a very, very interesting guy. I think the way you look at things, for me, I feel it's like you have some sort of a bird's eye view. I've said this to a couple of people. It seems like you have a bird's eye view on different topics, and when you say some of your views on things to me, I'm always taken aback, because it's like I would never think that way myself, you know. So it's very interesting having conversations with you, and that is why I thought it'd be great to, even Cormac, we actually individually thought of doing a podcast with you.
Nice.
So it was definitely one that was meant to happen.
It was really cool that I met you both also separately, and I met Cormac completely by perchance. Because I was, one evening we were here in Selfempowerment here in Lochgur, and I was up there with my sandwich and my tea and my bottle and my everything and my book, and I was just gonna sit to chill in the sun, and then I saw him walking up with Megan, and I was like, oh, but there's the other brother, hello, and we just started chatting, and we went on a bit of a journey.
And what I was going to ask you first is, just for the people listening, what was it, so you're from Argentina?
Yes.
What was it that drove an Argentinian man to come to Ireland and join forces with the Fairly Council of Ireland, living at Lochgur in North County Meath, a sacred site in Ireland, and learning the Irish language? So yeah, basically give a little rundown on how that happened.
The whole thing. Looking back now, I was even thinking this morning how all of that process was a long few years of finding a sort of destination almost, and I was very, very grateful this morning, because I remember how clear it was to me, even through all of those years, that this was the end objective, that coming to this land and being a part of whatever it is we are part of right here, right now, there was a certainty there that never quivered, even through all of my self-doubt, through all of those years of traveling and coming and going, and I was working as a freelancer, so traveling around Europe and trying to spend as much time as possible here in Ireland. There was a lot of fears and insecurities and confusions about where all of this is going, but looking back now, it's like, well, I did it. So, I was trusting at the end of the day, even though I felt like I wasn't. Basically, there was always this attraction I had for the idea of Ireland. Back in South America, we get a very distilled version of what life is like here, especially countries with a recorded history as long as Ireland. I am a bit of a strange product, because I am a European descent person, as many of my compatriots back in Argentina. We don't have ancestral ties to the land where we grew up. Our ancestors in the case came, killed and settled, and usually it's a bit of a downer, to bring that up, but I think it's such an important element of the context. So I look back at Ireland, especially when I started understanding Irish history and studying Irish history more. It's just kind of crazy, because, as you say, it gives me a bit of a bird's eye view, because I don't really have any spiritual ties to the land where I grew up in, even though I did grow up there, so there is a certain tie, but my blood, my ancestry comes from here, so there's an almost in-betweenness there of not belonging here but not belonging there either, pretty much, that I used to struggle with a lot, but now I think I've kind of turned it into a bit of a strength, because it's that in-betweenness that allows me to have that bird's eye view of some matters. I first came here to Ireland in 2013 with a working holiday visa. I lived in Dublin for a year and did the whole working at a cafe thing and partying on the weekends. Went to Glendalough and a few other places, and back when I didn't really understand anything, it just all seemed very magical to me. Castles and stone circles and druids and this and that. I had not a clue about the history or the proper processes or Anglo-Irish or anything really of the realities of the country. Then I went on my traveling journey, and I ended up being blessed enough that I could support myself as a freelancer as I was traveling around as an illustrator. So came a time when I started hearing this call, back here to actually proper connect to this culture. Personally, that year that I had in Ireland was quite transformative. Even though I didn't engage with the culture that much. But yeah, there was something there that definitely, planted a seed. So a few years later, I suppose, when I was ready for it, I started chasing that again. So I started to plan this. Okay, I'm going to go back to Ireland for 3 months, as the law allows me as an Argentinian. Then I'll go to Europe, and then I'll see where it gets me. But, I'll just start walking towards there, and eventually, something will happen. In the meantime, in the background, I had somehow enacted the process for the Italian citizenship that it turned out I was able to claim. But that's a long, bloody, stressful process that, could have ended up in nothing. So that was part of the stress and the uncertainties of not really knowing what I was doing. So then I started a bit of a yearly routine where I would be for 3 months here, 3 months in Europe, 3 months somewhere else, go back to Argentina, come back to Ireland, and every time, having to convince an immigration officer that I don't mean any problems. I'm just admiring the culture, and I'm just traveling as much as I can. Because by then I had really started studying Irish mythology and history and whatnot, and getting really, really involved in the study of the thing. So being able to come to the land and actually visit these places where the legends I was reading were set in was, to me, mind blowing. Back in South America, we don't have a recorded history that's that long, so that was a big part of it anyway. And through the years and through all the time that I spent doing that, which was a good few, 2 or 3 years, just kind of rambling around, experiences, people, places that I connected. Lock Crew here was the first place, the first ancient site that I dedicatedly went, and I came and I stayed for 5 days. That was in 2017. Again, like, not really understanding, not having a clue what are those cairns, those piles of rocks up there, and yet feeling like, oh my God, there's something here that really speaks to me. And I don't know, I started finding that I could be myself more in a sort of a way here than anywhere else that I had been. So sometime later, when the Italian citizenship came through, it's actually 2 years today that I came into Ireland last. So I moved officially to Ireland as a European person 2 years ago. Today, yeah.
Happy Irish birthday.
I suppose. Yeah, it's mad, and all that happened throughout. And to answer the other side of the question of how I ended up working, with the Ferry Council and helping all of that, being a bit of an intro. There was a moment that I think was very determining that I would like to share. So last time I was here as a visitor, it was in and around June 2019, right? I was leaving Ireland on the 23rd of June, so just after summer solstice, and the citizenship hadn't come through yet. I knew that by the next time I came to Ireland, it'd be with the citizenship. That was the plan, but by God, I had no clue how long that would take or when it would be. And I found myself in the Hill of Fishnack with a good few people that now I consider friends. I didn't know anybody really back then. I just kind of knew a few people, and I was invited, and I was just sitting in circle with a lot of fairies and a lot of people, and having this for the first time kind of observing this living in culture, this almost indigenous vibe to it of these are the people that are holding these traditions alive. So I was really, really inspired, and I met a friend that day, and it was 2 days before I had to leave, and she proposed we came here to Le Creux to spend the night in her van. So I was like, okay, one last check-in with Le Creux before I go for God knows how long. That's amazing. And we had a lovely night. We were parked up there by the parking lot, and we had food, and we had a wee little fire, and then we went to sleep, and I kind of woke up. It was summer, so it was the sun was rising quite early, so I don't know if I even go to sleep at all. But as the sun started to come up, it was a grey summer morning, I decided to climb up the hill. I don't know, just felt really compelled to it, and there was nobody around. It was very early in the morning, and I climbed all the way up, and I went into the top, like onto the top of the cairn, which I know you're not supposed to do by the official advice, but the thing's been there for 5,000 years. I think they're grand. Don't be stamping on them, but respectfully. And I just stood there, and the wind was howling so cold. And the Gaelic would be, I suppose, I don't know, a figure that I connected with very early on in the game. A few years before, when I first visited Le Creux, I immediately had connected with that grandmother energy, that I don't know, as an archetypal divinity, she resonates a lot with me. I think she's there. That's a beautiful drawing by Jane Brightson of herself. And I was standing there in the wind and kind of, feeling all of these feelings. I was a bit heartbroken. I had just been kind of heartily disillusioned by a handsome fairy I had met in the hills a few weeks before with a big mouth. So I was leaving Ireland. I didn't really know when would I be back. So, and I just heard his voice in the back of my ear saying, let the wind clean you. You need a good winding. So come on.
Gaelic's voice.
Yeah, almost. Kind of telling me, take off the layers. Wash yourself in the wind. So I pretty much got naked there, standing in the top of the cairn, and with the freezing. It was summer, but my God, the wind was Baltic. And just let it let it hit my skin. And this is, I don't know, connecting it now to, the same practice. The same idea like dipping in the ocean in the cold times. It was a bit of okay, let's test this. And I stood there for a while. And after some time, with the numbness in the body, this almost prayer started coming out of me, kind of saying, Ireland, I'm here. Like, I'm here, use me. Almost, I'm... Looking back, it kind of feels as if that was the moment when I kind of, submitted to the sovereignty of the land, almost. When I kind of went into my knees and went like, I'm in your service, almost, And I know that maybe sounds a bit strange, but it's also quite mythological. And then began a series of magical coincidences and serendipities that led me to think, well, maybe something does respond. My citizenship was supposed to come in April 2020. It would have come in the middle of the starting of the whole COVID stuff, but by magic almost, it came months before. It came in November 2019, and as soon as I got it, I jumped on a plane and I moved here right before all the madness started. So like that, there was a lot of funny coincidences that I think made me think that something maybe wants me here. And I don't know, to me it's the enjoyment of the culture without any previous biases, that I appreciate a lot as well. I have no bad memories of Irish in school. I have no associations in my head so even though the more I live here and the more I engage with the culture, I start making myself more aware of certain realities. I am very much against over glorifying the past. At the same time, I do, unlike any other Irish person that was born here, I get to enjoy things from a complete clean slate. A little wasp came in. Oh yeah, interesting. You may see me screaming like a girl if it flies over. To me, it's a phobia I have. I apologize.
Yeah.
It's probably the Gaelic anyway. So yeah, I feel like I'm talking a lot.
That's the point of the podcast.
That is the point of the podcast. Yeah. Look, some things happened afterwards. By the end of the first lockdown, me, Lar, and Sarah Humble, who's another of the co-creators of the Fairy Council.
Was it Sarah that you spent the night with here at that crew before you left? No.
No, there was another person that I kind of lost track of. Sadly, not sure where they are. No, there was another happy set of coincidences that brought me to be right here in the perfect time for deserving of living here for the first lockdown alongside these two wonderful souls, which I had kind of met but not really. We all kind of came together here at the time. Sarah and Lar knew each other from before, but it was a beautiful unexpected thing, because I had just left a big change of life. I was still kind of finding my bearings living here in Ireland, and having that opportunity to be in this beautiful place with beautiful people, and the Fairy Council dream had been being held already by a good few people. Sarah had been doing for a long time, living in her van and doing her wonderful well work. She had been observing already that there's a great need to start gathering and browsing all the incredible, remarkable people and projects in this land that are happening to caretake the land herself. And having this space here during that time really allowed for some of those things to kind of manifest. And I'm a graphic designer, so half jokingly there was suddenly a logo, and that kind of boosted certain things, and all of that, ended up being the foundations of many of the things that we are doing now. So it all kind of began here. Do
you wanna just quickly explain to people what it is the Fairy Council do?
Yes.
Council of Ireland.
The Fairy Council of Ireland, it's a hub to gather projects that are working for the heritage, the language, or the landscape in any way, trying to bring a bit of unity, a bit of a realization that we are all working for the safekeeping of the same thing. So let's co-work, let's talk more, let's all organize ourselves and actually enact good change. It's long term. We are aiming at having enough resources to support with varying aspects of different projects that may need funding, or may need contacts, or may need materials to actually be done or whatnot. For now, we are focusing on, because we have limited resources ourselves, we are doing everything 100% ourselves with our own hands. Everything from the branding to the gathering of people and the projects, enacting contact, because much of it is also actually sitting in the presence of these people and actually meeting eye to eye. It's not just Alex collect brands that are Irish. No, it's actually who we are as people, and I suppose opening spaces where we can have these conversations. What does it mean to be indigenous or not? Are we even allowed to use that word or that term? Healing spaces. I don't know. We see it as a bit of a safe hub where we can recognize each other. We always say that it's the good people doing good work in the good land. That's a bit of a foundation for the name. This idea of the good people out there. I am very, very much what they call a humoristic. Humorism is, I think it's a Greek term for the idea that mythology has its roots in reality. So like god figures like Zeus, Lu, or Ra, they all could have been actual human beings that were remarkable and could have, over time, the legends of their deeds might have become,
exaggerated.
God, yeah. And I don't see the fairies as being too different to that, or the idea of the fairies. Just to give an example, when we gathered in Locker that day, this was not advertised on Instagram. This was not done anyway. It was just for us, kind of like to just open a bit of a private space in which to communicate, but through doing a service to the land. And what did we do? we cleared some briars. Well, you did. I was with my back pain. I was sitting by the fire with a.
You brought me over some nice food.
I'm sure I went around with water and helping with tea and food, but you guys were like, you know, sweating in the sun, taking out all of that briar and clearing out this stone circle that was not accessible, and after that it was. And that happened almost overnight, you know what I mean? Somebody that had been there before and came a few days later without knowing that we were there, suddenly, oh, the stone circle is cleared. You know, who did this? What did this? And I don't know if maybe back in the day there wasn't a group of people, or many groups of people going around doing good stuff just because it's the right thing to do, and sure, what else is there to do? You know, there's we are trying to, you know, hold enough spaces where, you know, people that are tired of the crappy mainstream story can realize that, well, there's another narrative that we can go to as well, and there is a myriad of great, amazing minds and lovely people willing to co-create and I don't know, try and offer an alternative.
Just on that day, after spending the weekend down in Loughgore with you guys and doing that, I vividly remember the week after, it, like, just how much joy I had in myself. Like, I was so calm, so grateful. And we had loads of talks. We had a lot of talks on that week, you know, and I don't know, I was just floating through the week, like, so happy. Genuinely just so happy. And I think there's a mixture of things. It's doing something for the land, being out in nature for the weekend. I basically had my phone off the whole time, just a mixture, and then
presence.
Sitting around the fire with people. Dermot Ling and Siobhan were there. Siobhan was reciting some of her poetry. Legends. You were singing, like, just so much real honest conversation, and it's like it just filters through on all parts of your life then, I think.
Yeah, and I guess we're trying to bring a bit of awareness to that, you know, how when you think about it, what else could your soul probably want or need than to be surrounded in a natural setting with around the fire, with good people, good food, and doing a service to the land, doing something for something that's completely bigger than yourself. You know, and I suppose that's what we're all kind of wanting to, and I think that that's organically what we are all gonna come to as well. And I guess the desire to help comes from that side. I myself personally, you know, I've studied, and I studied, like, you look at the books that some of them are oddly specific. The other day I got the early Irish monastic schools, and I'm very excited for it. But you have to be in the right set of mind to read that kind of stuff.
Very old looking book.
But you know, I think about a lot. You know, what could I contribute? I had to go to an unrelated thing that I'm not gonna into now. I had to write a letter to the Irish government around like a year and a half ago, expressing my interest in living within Ireland as an Italian citizen. So officially I moved here. I had to obtain what's called a habitual resident condition, something that means that I officially live here, and I had to write, you know, I had to appeal to them and give them a very clear reason. So I ended up writing to them a letter, a 3-page, beautiful. If they ever write the biography of my life, that letter will be included there because it was one of my finest hits. Not a word of a lie in it though, but I just, you know, I opened up to the imbas. I was actually here in the hostel here in Loughgore during lockdown. I was staying there alone, and I just sat it and I wrote, you know, the story of why I'm doing all of these things. You know, how I feel like all of those years traveling around Ireland, and all the people I met and all the friends I made, and the kindness of people and the kindness of the land and the experiences I had, they really, really made me, you know, who I am now. And I know part of the desire to live here comes from, you know, the more I study and the more I live here, the more I recognize that there is something here that has been somewhat conserved. And I'm gonna go in a bit abstract here, but please bear with me. basically, you know, that there is something here in Ireland that is very important and very dear, and it's going to be very necessary to be shared with the world. I don't know if it is wisdom, I don't know if it is a custom or a certain kind of magic or the way of doing something or what, but I know your relentless survivalism, the way that this culture, you know, has been subject to onslaught and cultural genocide and physical genocide as well, and you know, and yet it survived. The language itself survived, and it's coming back, and you know, that
you're
to
learning
me,
it yourself, aren't you?
I am, and maybe because of my in-betweenness, and because I am a bit of, you know, I'm the product of that colonial power that came and settled and succeeded in that, you know, I am kind of like, you know, a sample of what could have happened here if that colonial power had succeeded. Now I'm sure there's people out there that would say that the colonial power did succeed, but I think, you know, as a foreigner and as a complete, you know, as an observant, I suppose, from the outside, of all that happened, I am just aghast with wonder that anything survived at all. And I guess maybe that's part of the why. I don't know. I'm still masticating on that one, but there's something precious, is what I'm trying to say, I think, here. And I know I don't like kind of think of anything more useful to do than to try and understand it better and support it. Not many people know this, but when Rome was falling and, you know, the world was falling into the Dark Ages and all the books were being burnt and all of this, the Christian monks were here in Ireland copying down all of that information. We all know now who Aristotle is, thanks to the Irish monks. And I'm like, it's mad that not more people are aware of this. You know what I mean? Ireland has saved the world before, and that's just the one time we kind of know. I'm pretty sure it must have happened before them time and time again. So I don't know, we are living in very unprecedented times, and I couldn't think of a better place in which to be than here at this moment, because I think maybe we are incubating something here that's going to be very, very needed in the times that are coming.
Yeah.
Somebody please ask something frivolous, please, before this gets very intense.
I was about to ask a question, and that's never frivolous. It's always deep. No, I just I find it fascinating just listening to you there, and especially how you touched on going back a bit to the point about your purpose, and like how you just asked Ireland, like, what do you need from me? Because funny enough, I went travelling for a couple of years, and then came back just around the same time you came back to Ireland. Right. It was just January 2020, and after a couple of experiences I had on my travels, it was a very spiritual journey. I went through Central America and Mexico, and I realised my purpose was in education, and to bring kind of just to walk my path and like of healing and becoming who I am, and learning about myself. And I've obviously a big enthusiasm for wisdom and knowledge, and I was like walking my own path, but also helping to create a path for other people that's like an alternative to the school system. So I don't think, in some way I chose that, but at the same time I don't really think you get to choose your purpose a lot of the time. I think your purpose chooses you. Well, it's kind of, I'm always wondering that, because I was like, is it a mix of the two? Or because I know a lot of people at the moment, like friends and stuff, that are trying to discover, I don't know what my purpose is, and I think there's a lot of people that don't know what it is. And I even tried to write a book to help people discover that, but at the same time I'm not even sure if the book will do it justice, because sometimes you don't choose it just chooses you. So I think, what do you think is the balance there on, and how does someone discover their purpose if they are a bit lost?
I think it's both. I definitely agree that, you know, it is almost thrust upon you, you know, but you need to make yourself available to it. You need to, you know, have done enough shadow work, you know, enough ugly, messy inner work in order to be ready to actually accept that. I can tell you for myself that I don't know, it's also the trusting that, okay, I may not know where the hell I'm going, but almost blindly. I'm gonna go this way. I was told, right before all of this happened and way before the Fairy Council stuff came to be and whatnot, I was told, I was given a message that was, darken your path. And I was like, what does that mean? And not too long after, I had the hermit archetype in my head, and I saw this beautiful tarot card of the hermit, in darkness, holding the staff and the star, with the knowledge as the kind of lamp guiding through. And I thought, right, I think maybe it has to do with my compulsion to always, I struggle with anxiety and with, lots of, I suppose, faults of thought in a sort of a way. So I concern myself a lot with things that I really shouldn't, because they take away my energy. But I would tend to always need kind of to see very far ahead. And I think that advice of darken your path was a bit of kind of like be comfortable with having the
small lamp.
Yeah,
a few steps ahead.
Yeah, it's
Not the
grand,
whole
like
way.
So I don't know why I ended up talking about that just now, but I was always incredibly lucky and blessed and even wealthy, I would say, in that I kinda knew more or less. I don't know exactly. If I didn't know the what, I knew more or less the where. I knew that it was not in Argentina. I knew that it was probably in a place like this. I knew that it, and I noticed the same thing as you. I've seen what not knowing does to a lot of people, and the pain that can come from not having a clue. And time is going by, and there's nowadays also we live in an unprecedented time where you could become anything really. If you are somewhat blessed to be born in a certain social economic level, you can pretty much choose to become whatever you fucking want.
I think that's part of the problem as well. There's too much options. There's too many alternatives, and it's like back in the day we didn't have that problem, because if your father was a farmer, you just became the farmer or whatever.
In a
you
sense,
just kind of follow the family tradition, and a lot of the time. And I think now it's like you can go anywhere, you can be anything, and it's like a paralysis of choice.
Look, we are living in a time where I think, at least even within my own growth, it's become about, we are all seeing both sides, both the light and the dark side of everything much more by default. I think up until now, we were much more prone on just looking at the good side of things, and failing to understand that everything by nature, if there's something that's good, that has a good side, it has to have a low side. And within my own growth, the more at peace I am with that, the easier it's getting to navigate things. Like when I go, okay, I am wanting to sort myself out with driving, say, because my Argentinian license serves for nothing. That's another Irish experience I'm having to go through the whole NDLS. I approved my driver's license. But I am also making myself aware that it's gonna be great to drive, but there's gonna be insurance, there's gonna be breakdowns, there's gonna be expenses, there's gonna be stresses attached to it. And when those stresses come, I don't want to go, oh no, what a surprise, there's a dark side. I want to just know that there's gonna be a dark side and not let it be a shock. So with that, I suppose finding a purpose, is starting to be shown in that same way. Yes, we can go and do and become anything right now. And that's great in a way, but the shadow aspect of that is many of us are going to go a bit cuckoo about it because it's too much. You can only choose one or two things, or three at most, I'd say, and you are not choosing thousands. It is enough to make anybody crazy.
What I think on that is, like you said, back in the day, you just followed the family tradition. I think it's a great thing that we have the choice. And I know from my own personal experience, I was overwhelmed by that, I suppose. Didn't know where the hell I was going, and I got so overwhelmed that I stayed in the same rut I was in.
Yes.
So unless you take time to sit with yourself, find out what kind of practices work for you, as in to connect back to yourself, then you might be able to hone in on them few things. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I think what a lot of people do, and I've noticed, is they have all these ideas of things they want to do, but they just talk about them. And they're not sitting down. I was not a victim. I was a culprit of this as well.
Right.
Of just having all these ideas, saying them out, but not actually sitting down and focusing and breaking it down. What are the steps I need to do to get towards these? Like, these are the ones I want to do. What am I going to do for it? Instead of just like, you have to take responsibility to do that.
Absolutely.
Like, like the people that are getting overwhelmed and have all these what was that word you said, of something of choice?
It's
paradox of choice. It's just because they're not sitting down and sitting with themselves and figuring out what it is do I like to do. This is what I maybe want to do. These are the steps I need to take to get towards this.
And I think just add on to that, I think a lot of the time we think what we want to do with our minds without, as Darrell said, sitting and like listening to the heart or the intuition, which is, it already knows. Well, I believe it already knows what you want to do when you take that time, or knows what you're being called to do.
Right.
But we can get caught up in the head of like, oh, I think I could be good at this and I could make money there, and you know, there's opportunities there. But that's not really what you want. That's kind of what you think you should do, and that's another trap I think people go down.
There's many sides to it. I think there's do you fit that in the front?
Yeah, I'm nice and comfy here.
I think, you know, there's many aspects to that what you just said there. Say, on one aspect you have the, say the monetization aspect of it. You have the self-fulfillment aspect of it. You have the health. It's, can we foster a context that actually allows people to find what their bliss is more easily, more smoothly, than having to be trying all of this stuff? Because yes, there may be so many options out there, but if society itself, or like exactly the work that you guys are doing with Wolf Academy, helps the young ones have better tools to navigate those feelings, to do their inner work, to be able to recognize toxic positivity online, you know, and this idea that it's all just scented candles and burning sage, when it's actually, you know, sitting in the darkness crying because you are 36 years old, and like I am, and you do not know how to cope with this very tough emotion, you know, and finding ways to do so. Again, I think that society, you know, or again with individuals like you guys, we are coming to a place where especially the young ones are being given better tools to do that, but it has to be also, you know, a collective effort of a change in attitude to enable those things. I think much of that pain and much of that inaction that you were just speaking about stems from the fact that deep down we know that everything has its low side. If something has its high side, it's going to have its low side, and that puts us off, because, you know, we've been so trained to go for the quick retribution and to actually shun the dark side of things. We don't like talking about death. We don't like talking about the ugly, you know, messy bits as a society, especially here in the West. And I think the more space, you know, there is for those kind of conversations, you know, there's lots of work being done with grief, all of these men's circles that are popping up, and there's all of this space that is being opened to actually allow to shine some light of awareness into you know, the unacknowledged and the repressed and the you know, that ugly nasty work that's so hard, and again, give people better tools to find their bliss. That is something that Sarah asks a lot when we get a chance to actually meet people that we're gonna, you know, have in the council and endorse them and whatnot. It's a beautiful question to ask people, and you should see what it inspires sometimes in even in just in their eyes, or where is my bliss? You know, what gives you that feeling?
What is your bliss?
Yeah, you know,
if Joseph Campbell, follow your bliss.
Joseph
the hero's journey.
Campbell is my shepherd. His work and his mythological theories really did a number on me during all of those years that I was traveling and trying to get myself here. They did, and then all of this work, you know, that is being done in a more bespoke fashion. Again, at the beginning of that lockdown here, I was working with something that, you know, within myself, that I think I've come, you know, quite far from. I started analyzing the relationship between my masculine aspect and my feminine aspect. How does my male treat my female and vice versa? And noticing that my male side was actually quite abusive to my female side. My males I was being too blamey of too much sensitivity or too many, and I started working with that within myself quite a bit, and now I am in a process where I don't know, almost by opposites, I'm finding that the old wise sovereign energy of what we could call the goddess, that's very present in the mythology of this land. Of course, it was the goddess of the land who gave the king the capacity to rule. Speaking about kingship and within ourselves, within our own kingdoms, that a male journey of stepping up into our own power and actually behaving like the kings that we all can be. I'm finding a lot of richness in working with the sacred female in that way, to putting myself, let that old wise female energy teach me how to be a man. And there's a lot of work with that, which wouldn't be completely intuitive, but the more I think about it, the more sense it makes. And again, there's many of the old stories that are reflect this in the medieval mythology. Cuchulainn would go to sit with the old wise woman to learn how to be a proper warrior before actually going into battle. And I don't know, there's been a lot of work that I've been going through within my own head within that journey, and and working with all of these archetypes that we have talked about, especially you and me, that we have talked about that in the past. The role of the warrior, the role of the king, the role of the grinder worker, the just being there doing the grunt work, and all of these archetypes that we can step into. I think they all, coming back to the original question, I think we have by now a lot of tools that we can use to find our own paths more and more.
I forgot where that question started.
Oh,
purpose. Or something on purpose. I was like, I actually was. I'm really intrigued by the archetypes as well. It's something I've only dabbled in a tiny bit, but like haven't really understood fully, like say the warrior or the king. Obviously I'm kind of attracted to them too, obviously, because they sound cool, but like what for you, what is the king archetype for like a man? And like, do you think it's important that men kind of start recognizing their ability to be their own king, as you said, within their own kingdom, and what is that?
I'd say so. I have my soul brother, he's an Argentinian man as well. He lives in Dubai, and I pretty much grew up with him from a teenager onwards. We shared our path, and he's a very, very important person in my life. And growing up, we always worked with the archetype of the magician, which would always resonate with me a lot. And he is a Leo himself, and the idea of the king always resonated with him a lot. So during our explorations, during our paths, during our experiencing with psychotropics and whatnot, we always worked, when we would compare our findings on about this mad thing of being alive, he would bring it more from that aspect and me from this other aspect. And over time, I don't know, the more I started working with the male within me, and especially, I suppose my case is a bit unique because I am a gay man. So not that it changes everything, but the experience of maleness itself is probably pretty different to the experience of maleness of a straight guy. So I don't know, I was kinda, for the longest time I would shy away from the idea of kingship, I suppose, maybe because I didn't understand it very well. Again, this is something that medieval Irish mythology, which is the only mythology there is regarding ancient Ireland, helped me navigate some of that as well. This idea that the king is only so because the goddess, the land herself, allows him to be, gives him the right. You're not born into kingship. You are not, given it. You earn it, but you're mostly are given it by the female, I suppose. And that can mean, the female within you. I think the more I started looking into the relationship between those two energies within me, the more comfortable I became with the idea of kingship as a man, and the more I understood that the way to kingship is through embracing those feminine aspects of wisdom, of compassion, of which has nothing to do with gender though. It has nothing to do with feeling less or more like a man. It's about those two principles within us, and we call them feminine and masculine. We could call them whatever other tag there is for poles, supposed. And there's some, I don't know, almost a chemical process there that's very interesting. Kingship to me is stepping into your power, stepping into self-responsibility, self-sovereignty, your boundaries, your self-love, your capacity to actually stand up and go and do, to pass from talking to actually doing. But we are never the one thing though. The idea of warrior, the notion like the warrior archetype never really worked with me. It's only now starting to be something that I feel comfortable calling myself even, because I was much more always, less sword and more magic wand. You know what I mean? And books and the knowing and the studying and Spectre Patronum.
Wingardium Leviosa.
Yeah. And it's allowing. I wrote here the other day. The warrior is there to support the king. This was told by a very good friend of mine called Connell, who lived out in abroad from Ireland for many years, and he's one of the many people I have met in the last year and a half or 2 years that have returned. Well, you are one, I suppose. Come back to Ireland after being abroad, and they are not really sure why, but he's one of the many incredible, beautiful, talented, dignified, true men that I call my friends, that I have, the pleasure to be in the company of. And he was saying this the other day, we were on a conversation, and he said the warrior is there to support the king. And I don't know, I guess I bring it up because there comes a time when you can work with this or that other archetype, and it's cool to be flowing with it, and remember that you can just fit them on and they all have something to offer you, and you will. There's not the one path. I don't believe that there's the one way to get to these things, and the word king has a lot of shortcomings, has a lot of colonial implications. Maybe it's not even the right word.
Yes.
But I think it comes down at the bottom line, and this is, I suppose, the main point I want to make is that achieving self-empowerment, achieving self-sovereignty by submitting yourself to something bigger than yourself, and what's bigger than yourself than the land, what other thing is there than the land itself, to me at least, it has led me to understand that whatever skills I have, whatever goodness I can master, whatever mastery I have obtained over anything, it's never just for me. It's always for society and the land. Until I understand that completely, there's very little I can actually do for anybody else than myself. So, and I guess bringing it back to the Fairy Council intention, I guess that's the main line. We are trying to gather the people that have understood that it's never just for you. We always relate back to this story of Luke coming to the gates of Tara and being asked by the doorman what skill he was bringing to court, to the court of King Nuada. That was the first thing, that to be given access, even, the measure was, what useful thing do you bring to the whole? And, I suppose there's something really beautiful about starting to, slowly and with gentleness, but starting to shift our lifestyles towards a more skill-based set, interactions. See, that again, that God experience with us, you saw how that, even that very simple thing kind of allowed for everybody's strengths to show and shine and be useful. The one that was good minding the babox was doing that. The one that was good cooking was cooking. The one that was pushing all the briar was doing it. And it kind of flows, and it's, I think,
that balance in the society. Whereas a lot of people, I think, are trying to, like, you see Instagram these days, everyone's comparing themselves about, like, you have in your profile, like, this is what I'm doing, or we see a lot of the work we're in is like coaches and all that, and everyone's like trying to be a better coach than everyone else or something, instead of just following your own like one of the lads I was actually talking to recently was like, oh, I want to do this, like, and helping people with like healthier lifestyles and like getting more light exposure and movement and grounding and stuff like that. But I think I'd probably need to be a personal trainer as well to get in. I was like, you don't need to be a personal trainer. It's like, you don't need to do that because everyone else is a personal trainer. So it's like everyone's kind of trying to do the same thing a lot of the time, and I think instead of just accepting, you don't have to try and compare with other people and just do your own thing, and then there's going to be a space for that somewhere if you do that really well.
Absolutely.
And I think, and also that there's no better or worse role. It's like every role is necessary. Like someone has to do the briars, someone has to do the cooking. Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no like I'm better than you because I'm doing the briars. It's like that's nonsense.
Colonial, modern,
ego.
bullshit mindset.
Yes.
I tie that back a lot with what Mankan was saying on the interview he did over a year ago. I think it was with you guys. I have it very fresh because I listened to it yesterday. But he was saying something about the need to almost become this persona.
Yes.
Not as a fake thing, but because it's partly the rule of the game, I suppose. You need to present a certain way, sadly. But, you know, it's also for the work that you're trying to come to make across. It's a huge ego dangerous trap, for sure, to be sure. I struggle with it myself, especially, you know, the more notoriety I ended up having in the last few months when all of the kind of Fairy Council stuff started to become more and more known. You start getting more aware of how do you behave, how do you present, what do you say, am I adding up value, am I just doing nonsense, am I just feeding my ego many times. But then, you know, it's very new. We are not, you know, we've never had this before, this way of connecting. The other day I shared a photo of the afternoon, of the evening over there, the sunset, and I said something about, you know, something that I was telling myself, which was, hey, it's okay to feel lazy and sleepy and groggy. This is the time for it. We are in the dark season of the year, so it's grand. It's okay that your habits and your routines tune with the nature out there. Allow yourself that. And I shared that, and then I had the guilt thing, like, oh, you know, what am I trying to prove to anybody that I'm living under these ancient precepts and I'm so spiritual because I... But then I had a couple of people going, hey, thank you for that. I live in a city where it's very hard to remember that the days are shorter because electric lighting, and you're reminding me of that, so thank you. So then you think, okay, well, then maybe there is a usefulness to that, you know. So I guess it's, again, about balance and keeping yourself in check. And
I think it's balance. Balance is huge. Just going back, I wanted to go back to what you were saying about finding a purpose with something greater than yourself, like the land, because it just reminded me of, not long after Let Go, for a long time I'd been saying to Cormac, I'd been saying to a few people, I had wanted to go into the forest for 3 days, 3 nights. I don't know why the 3, but I did anyway. Yeah, and I did it a while back, a few weeks ago, and I went out with no distractions, so no food, no books, no phone, no watch. I got dropped there, so I had no car to retreat to. I went to a secluded place, so I had no houses to walk to. I didn't want any way out, which was good because on the first day, detoxing from, say, my phone, communicating with people, that was tough. Brought up a lot of fear and anxiety, that and it was just purely because I couldn't connect to anyone, right? So sitting there a day in, started getting more calm because I started feeling connected to the land around. I was in the forest, and after about 2.5 days of sitting, it rained the whole time, so I couldn't even distract myself with walks really. I had to sit in the tent, and it was coming towards the end, and I had an experience. We were talking about the ego. I was saying this comic already, and I was just kind of sitting in my head, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of talking to the ego. I was like, you just need to park yourself here for a moment, and I'm just going to go and sit in this vibration, okay? And I was sitting there, and I had parked the ego. I've seen it vividly, and I kind of feel like that was me getting out of my way, getting out of my head, and I started talking, and what was coming out was protect the land. And then I started saying, connect to the land, connect to yourself, connect to others, and in that order. You know, that started coming out, and I was like, this is why I've been being called out here, to get this realization that we need to protect the land, or we'll become very disconnected from ourselves, very disconnected from everyone. Yeah. I also started thinking, I was like, 'cause I'd read something about the wolves were the protectors of this land years and years ago, and it's just ironically called Wolf Academy. But regardless of that, that kind of really sat with me, and I was like, a lot of time we're telling people to connect with themselves. What the fuck does that mean? If you just go out, a simple way maybe to try start doing that is to go for walks in nature, in the forest. Do something for nature. What's that mean? Sit and listen to it. Plant a plant. Yeah, just basically like engage with it. Yeah,
in an expansive way, like
and kind of get out your own way, and obviously like don't bring a phone with you. Just spend time in it. And that will help you connect with yourself. You know, that's because I always said that. I was like, I love coming into, like, you know, when we were doing the circles, just sitting in the forest. I think that creates a huge extra power being in the elements doing those circles rather than indoors. The point I was trying to make was, I think that's why I'm feeling such like these heightened levels of joy and happiness these days, because I have found something higher than myself to give my energy to, which is the land. Because I'm experiencing feelings of happiness, joy. Now, it's not all bliss, like I'm still getting those bad things, but I've something to connect back to, which is the land.
A little tether to reality, you know.
And it's not that I even missed, or that I was trying to get these feelings that I'm having now, because I didn't know they existed.
Right.
That's a little bird. But yeah, I didn't know they existed, so it's like, it's just, I can't stress enough about connecting to something like that.
I think it's the base of everything. You know, we can sit here and discuss all human rights matters for hours on end, but with the ecology in the state that it is,
and that's why I think what the Gaelic Woodland Project are doing, that's why I contacted them.
Right.
Was because I've been getting this call.
Nice.
And you guys knew Owen. That's actually why I met up with Sarah first. Sarah from the
Really?
Council.
Oh wow.
I've been getting a call to do something with the land. Cormac said he was meeting Sarah. He's like, maybe you could come down. She might know someone.
Right.
And then she mentioned Owen, so it's like all connected. And then that's how I ended up meeting you, because I'd gone down to Sarah that time.
That is so mad, because in the meantime, while everything all of that was happening, I became one of the directors of that charity as well. So here we are all already co-creating. You know, and the more we do that, the more there starts to be, because community is the other side of it as well. We cannot do it alone. You cannot protect the land in any sort of way just by yourself.
No.
You know, so it starts kind of, you know, with feeding each other, and it's been tried before. I don't know what makes us think that. Look, when all of this started, and me and Sarah were saying that, you know, this could go places, but, you know, again, keeping our own egos in check as well. We had to sit there for a moment when it was starting to get, you know, as big as it is now. We were like, okay, let's just agree now that if it becomes only what it already is, that's fine. You know, we don't need to be this huge organization with, like, you know, a foundation with this and that. And even if it becomes just this little self-made website where we are showcasing cool things and amazing people, then that's fine. Surely it's gonna grow more than that, but
if it doesn't, you're fine.
Yeah, and it's not about keeping a low expectation, or in a way it is, but it's just being okay with what we're already achieving, you know, and not pressuring ourselves into having to become anything else. But also the awareness that we can only do this because she and I happen to have the lifestyle that allows us to have time to give to that. It's not like we're special. It's not like we have any, I mean, if anything, I suppose we have the passion, but we are also two people that happen to have the lifestyle that allows for that kind of work. I can live here. I am single. I don't have, all of my family is back the other side of the world. I have no family commitments, taking my time. You know, I am pretty much a free agent. I'm very I'm frugal. I don't need much to be happy. I live here and I feel like a freaking king. Like, oh my God, kings don't live this relaxed, you know, and cozy. But it's only thanks to that we just happen. Like, if we just feel like this could have, we are just channeling something that, you know, is coming through us because we were available. You know, in no means or fashion, the idea of the Fairy Council is ours, you know, exclusively in any way. if anything, we are struggling a little bit to find the balance between the co-creation aspect, as in, and you know, actually opening up, you know, help by other people, and at the same time making sure how can we do that while ensuring that the ethos stays clean. So for now, we are still learning, and like, you know, we haven't been properly active for a year even, you know, and it's gone so far and wide. So, you know, we are okay with taking it very, very slow and taking our time and understanding that, yeah, the ecology has to be a big part of it. Without that, there's no need of discussing anything else really, because there's not gonna be a land in which anything for anything to happen.
I think that's the realization I had. You know, that's the kind of realization, and I wouldn't have got that realization if I hadn't surrendered myself to the land.
Surrendering is the word, though.
Yeah,
no?
Surrendering and trusting. And
it just goes so against what society probably wants of you right now. You know, I felt I stopped smoking tobacco I think 4 or 5 months ago, and it's great because I found a way for it not to be, you know, I didn't suffer. I have not suffered one bit for it. But I remember when I was thinking of it and just getting myself to that place of, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. A big motivator was, what a nice little punch in the face of darkness, all of the darkness in the world. I cannot do much, but I can take this one tiny step towards goodness for myself. You know, this is something that I can do, and it's a bit like a in your face, low vibration. You know, kind of like take this, and I just got a lot of motivation. I was thinking, okay, this is something that I can actually do, and I'm not saying I'm gonna fix world hunger by stopping smoking, but it's one less crappy thing happening in the world. You know, it's one, and I say it in a sense because I thought, you know, I was feeling completely, you know, that it'd be such a hard thing to do, which it wasn't in the end. But I smoked for 20 years, so I thought it was gonna be, you know, a huge thing. And it's taking that plunge, you know, it's kind of taking that jump into the unknown and realizing that you're always gonna be held, you're always gonna be falling into a feather mattress if you are jumping with, you know, with truth and honesty. I suppose.
Yeah. I think I struggle a lot as well with like fully surrendering at times, because my mind is very active and, like you said earlier, trying to see the future, which is, I would say I have like a vision for what we're doing with Wolf Academy and stuff like that, but I can't, like, that's necessary to start. You need a vision of where you want to get to, but I think I'm just learning to let go of the mind's like need for certainty and just start trusting and lowering the light a bit closer to my feet, so I just see a few steps ahead, and I just enjoy things way more, because there's no, if you start looking too far in the future, just all those worries and stresses, like how are we going to do this, how are we going to do that, it's like we'll figure it out on the way. Like we've figured it out this far, and just enjoy the fucking journey, because it's like classic advice, but it is an amazing journey to be on, and
much of it is self-taught, self-found. You know, much of it is this, again, this balance between following certain people's I don't know, knowledge that they left behind on how to navigate the labyrinth, but at the same time knowing that you are blazing your own trail, as they say. You know, and it's beautiful because when you put yourself in that path, you start also coping on that there's lots of people around you in similar ones, and you can support each other. You can, you know, get motivation from knowing that what you're doing could inspire somebody else.
And that's a huge part of it, because sometimes you feel, even though me and Dara work together, which makes it easier for us, like there's two of us going through, you know, the hard parts when you don't know what you're doing at the start. You're trying to figure things out, and it's very hard being by yourself with that. At least me and Darryl had each other, but even still, sometimes it's nicer to hear other people that are like, oh, it's inspiring what you're doing, because sometimes you always question, like, am I on the right path? Like, am I doing, is this what I should be doing, or whatever? So it's great to have a community of people, and it seems like we've just stumbled into this community like the last while, kind of since starting the podcast. Really, it kind of just went on a little tangent on its own
unbelievable journey.
But you're guided, aren't you?
And it is like there is something else guiding it, like.
And that's another beautiful thing of this country. I can tell you, coming from a huge country of 45 million people as well, Ireland, its tininess
Yes.
allows for some really sound connections to be made quite quickly, because there's not that many of us in this land.
It really does happen. Like, it's,
Yeah.
like what you were talking about there about hearing someone else and getting inspired by. Like, I was chatting with Owen from the Gaelic Woodland Project the other day on the phone for a long time, and even listening to his idea for that forest.
I know,
like,
and it's just
hell,
contagious. His enthusiasm is out of this world.
Yeah, and it was
He
like,
is such an inspiring human being. Oh my god. And you can feel it coming through him, you know,
Yeah,
and you
definitely,
recognize it, and you're like,
yeah.
It's through there. That's the
Yeah.
kind of people that I want to see in the
Yes.
company
it's just
of.
like, I was just like, whatever. Anything we can do to help. I put your name down as well. But,
Yeah, just,
yeah.
Well, I hear,
I presume
I hear you are doing though something quite epic, and we were gonna be
yeah.
discussing social media communication strategies for it, but this might as well be the first one that the internet hears of it. You guys will be doing some.
Yeah, we're going to do a walk in aid of the Gaelic Woodland Project to raise money for them. It's going to be the Wicklow Way,
Nice.
which is 127 kilometres. We're going to go south to north, so we'll be starting down in Carlow. Can't remember the name of the place.
Oh, you're gonna start down and go up.
Start down and go up, and we're going to finish in Marley Park.
Wow.
Be nicer to walk
With
towards
a big
the
party.
light, someone said.
Yeah, someone just said you at least at the end you're going to see some lights. It'll be like you'll know you're coming to
Walk
the finish
towards,
line.
right? Yeah, that's nice. So you're gonna do this during a whole day.
We're going to do it in one day. It's
30 hours. 30 is it?
I think I've looked at it now. If we keep a pace of 5.3 kilometers an hour, we'll do it in 24 hours.
Oh my god. So, and you're doing this in December, so much of it is gonna be in darkness.
4th of December, or December. So much of it will be in the dark, like you said.
Maybe you should be carrying little hermit lanterns to
Yeah.
darken your paths.
Make it worse, yeah.
Walk straight off the edge of the mountain. or something.
Howling.
Yeah,
All throughout.
yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah, that's the challenge we're going to do.
That's incredible. And see-
Owen's going to get on board himself, as far as I know.
Yeah, he was on to me the other day going, are you joining us? I'm like, I may be waiting for you in certain parts and give you water and support. We'll see.
Yeah, we need to organise this properly, because the last time we did a challenge, we didn't have it organised and it could have went very south.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
lucky it didn't.
We will.
So we'll organise it properly. We're going to call it the Way for the Woods, because we're doing it for the Woodland Project, and it's called the Wicklow Way. So the Way for the Woods. Unless you have any other ideas on that, but that's what
I very much like the Way for the Woods. I think we can tune in the bespokeness a little bit higher and maybe do something with the weak or the low or the high or the St. Kevin's or the, I don't know, we'll see. We'll have a branding brainstorming after the podcast interview.
And just for anyone listening, what is the vision for the Gaelic Woodlands project? Or do you want to share that?
It's the Woodland. So Ireland have a long history of conflict and mismanagement. So I suppose what the Gaelic Woodland Project is trying to do is to give people the opportunity to come together and create a native woodland. Pretty much that you can rest assured it's going to be there pretty much forever and long term, because of the way that the whole program is done. Each person that contributes, you become a guardian of that woodland. You're going to own literally a tiny piece of it.
You become a wolf.
Material, son of the land.
Yeah.
So that ensures that once it's working, that cannot be taken away, because it needs to be purchased. Each little tiny parcel needs to be purchased. All of these thousands of people. So that's very empowering, and so it's the creation of a native woodland that is not dependent on anything else than the people to actually function and work. It's gonna be dedicated to the Irish diaspora and to the Irish immigrants. So there's gonna be a strong aspect on remembrance of all of those souls that had to emigrate, and all of those people out there that still carry that thing within them, and that Irishness that's gonna, through that horrible event of misery that happened in this island mid 1800s, the magical Irishness kind of through that got spread all around the world, and I do not know if that isn't a bit of a silver lining to the tragedy, because your capacity for survival, your wit, your creativity, your way of facing up to strife with jokes and laughter, that got spread throughout the world, and I suppose this is a bit of a way to celebrate that as well. You know, that and many people feel this connection. They won't be able to travel, but they can say own a tiny little piece of this forest and know that they're keeping it for their own children. Say. So you know, it's just become an official charity. We are relaunching the website hopefully very very soon, and we're gonna be starting some more. Manifest some campaigns and ways to do some fundraisers and get people more involved. But it's all, you know, Owen has been at work for 2 or 3 years at this. You know, it's a very slow process getting anything done really many times here. So and again, the focus is on the people power. You know, in the community power to actually make this happen. So it's involving, it's motivating, it's engaging, it's bringing this similar experience that you shared earlier just now of what if I sit there in the forest and I just listen and what may come through. I guess the woodland that we're trying to create would be a space for that. You know, if it can be a place of remembrance, not only for the immigrants but also for your own role with the land. So yeah, that's and through that, there's a good few other ideas and things that are being put in the cauldron for now. But over
cauldron, I like that. I was about to say pipeline there. Cauldron, I like that.
And I just throw in the cauldron, give it a steer, and
start with the one.
And see what comes out.
That's fairly
of it.
Inspiring as well. That's
oh man, it's incredible. Like
cool
really,
project.
there's the amount of stuff happening everywhere, and no matter what interest you have, you can find somebody that's already doing something that you can get onto. You know?
That's why, like I said to Darrell, I met Sarah in Tara once, and then I felt like she had something to tell me. I don't know what it was, so I emailed the Fairy Council. I just feel like I need to talk to you about something, and then she kind of put us on. Darrell was asking about what he to do with the land, and she put us on to the Gaelic Woodland Project. So it just shows the Fairy Council. It's like a way, like if you want to do something, like if they talk to yous, like you're going to be put on someone who's already doing it instead of. I think Sarah said there was like 30 like small groups trying to do something for like Reforest Ireland. It's like they need to work together and like so
opening spaces for that.
That's great to just have that.
And even from meeting Sarah that time, the conversation obviously extended much more from the woods, and I ended up leaving with a wolf skin and an eagle feather. And
she's good for the magical.
What was actually crazy about that was I did a journey with Martin Duffy months before that, and in the journey I was an eagle and I met with a wolf in a forest. And like it was only when I was leaving she goes, hold on, I think that you need something else, and she gave me the eagle feather. I couldn't fucking believe it,
man.
And I did a lot of deep breath work then with the wolf skin on my bare chest and the eagle feather above my head, and because of that the wolf has given me this, I can kind of, it's not disassociate, it's like they're like a power animal. And I have a few, but with the wolf and the eagle allows me, so when I'm having say negative thoughts, I'm able to come out inside of myself, that's the eagle part, and look at it from a different perspective, and I'm not getting consumed by it. And with the wolf, when I need to say, when we're doing a talk or something, like I'm able to just give me that courage to do it, or to stand up, and it's like it's just such a knock-on effect that's given me probably the courage to bother reaching out to Owen. And it's like, and it's all just from those little gestures of the wolf skin and doing the work with it, and because she told me to do some work with it, meditation or whatever, and it's like it's just all such knock-on effects.
It's so interconnected. It's not.
The butterfly effect is just fucking insane.
Yeah, because it's being friendship through it all as well, and kinship, not kingship, but kinship. As in, I recognize myself in you, and that's amazing. That's so again another punch into that darkness that wants us all to be separated and socially distanced and all of that crap. It's very very reaffirming. Many people, I think I don't know if it was with you that I was saying that there's a bit of a saying of how when the last wolf was killed was the last death of the Gaelic spirit, because
one thing on that, sorry, I'm pretty sure where the Wicklow Way,
where we start
is right beside where the last wolf is killed.
right. Oh man, oh Jesus, that's amazing.
And it's funny when you said that. It's like you see part of yourself in, say, us or whatever, because I was just looking at your tattoo there, the Celtic Brotherhood knot that we have as well, and I was like, nice. I actually just thought when I have it on my chest, and,
right.
I just thought when you were, I saw it earlier when you were talking, and I kind of saw it, I was like, you're like our brother as well, in a weird way. Like
I
there's
think there is. I think that's that we are recognizing ourselves as family. There's people coming back like, what are the odds that I was born in fucking Buenos Aires, and I 36 years later I find myself here. And sometimes I think all the things that I had to go through personally, and you guys too, you know, in your own personal stories, to be doing what you guys are doing, and it's mad. Like, you know, it really leads you to think that there is a sort of intelligence back there, kind of guiding certain things. I got this done in 2004, 10 years before I even came to Ireland for the first time with a working holiday. Something in me knew.
That's mad.
You know, like, okay, I got to it through the TV show Charmed, but you know, you gotta get it somehow. But you know, if that was the way, then be it. You know, it did bring me to something that, you know, this triad is such a foundation of my beliefs, and we can, working with these things, we can recognize each other, and it's beautiful. I saw there's these two girls that we have in the Fairy Council. One is called Shelley. She has Tales from the Wood, and she's a beautiful artist. She does this thing. You might have seen her stuff. She does these incredible goddess drawings. And there is Sarah down in Tralee. She has a project called Danu Skincare. She makes natural products. And one day I saw that they had put out this product. Yeah, I told you about this. This conjoined product. It was called Maca, right? So it was a natural perfume called Maca, but it came with the art print of the goddess Maca that Shelley had done. So I reached out and I was like, "Oh, girls, that's amazing! Fair play! Like I didn't know you knew each other." And I don't remember which of them said. I think it was Sarah. She said back to me, "Oh, we didn't know each other. We connected through the Fairy Council, and we decided to collaborate and do this one-off edition together of, you know, to have the perfume and the goddess print." That's all I wanted to see. You know, people finding each other and collaborating. That's, you know, that's the only thing I can imagine that's gonna bring us forth.
Well, it's working. It's happening.
It is happening now.
I think there is, and there's friendship and bonds being done through them. You know, I met you, it was the 8th of October, I think it was, that we had that thing on Logger, and since then I think I've seen you pretty much for one reason or the other. And one time every week I've seen you, know, and I could now any day pick up the phone and go, "Hey, Daryl, this." But a month ago, you were a stranger. So it's incredible.
So quick as well.
Yeah.
Even when I met you, it was like, we spent the day with you, me and Megan, walking around Loughcrew, and then just sitting in the I don't know if you want to say that actually. Take that out. Sitting somewhere, and
it's just right.
I know.
Let the people wonder what it was.
Sitting somewhere, and then the next day you're down at the. Was it the next day? You're down at the Circle in Tara, the mixed circle. And then we like dropped you home and all, and it was just like we'd known you forever. It was just
a few days later, then you were down the main circle. 6 days later,
there was like a lot of. I found myself, you know, amongst your friends, as well, very quickly, and that's what I say. I felt so comfortable. And look, I don't like making, you know, too much of a fuss about, you know, the fact that I am gay. I don't like to make my identity around that, but as I say, it is a big part of it. And again, as a gay man, to feel the welcomeness and the zero weirdness at all with anything I feel like I may want to share in those kind of spaces that you invited me to, I have not even once for a second felt that being gay is a factor or of relevance in any sort of way. And homosexuality was still illegal in Ireland up to the 90s. You know, so again, it's mad to see how much, you know, growth there is being actually. You know, culturally, even, and, you know, to being able to find that out for myself, finding that welcomeness. I think, again, this work, this understanding of the land before and foremost, does away with a lot of all that time wasting bullshit.
Yes.
Tags, you know, discrimination. I had a very heated conversation about the extreme left's methods of dealing with fascism in social media with a person. We clashed a bit on our, you know, we couldn't really listen properly to each other, but the main argument I was making was like, look, we can sit here and discuss this for hours, but with the trees still need to be planted.
Yes.
So no, I don't care about the Nazis and the gas chambers. I care about the trees not being planted right now and how Ireland is one of the least wooded places in Europe. And I heard Mankan saying the other day in a video that we get through Skulls Carta, that the Hedge School Irish immersion that I'm doing, which by the way, anybody that's listening, if you can do it, next time they do it because it's awesome. But he was talking about trees in these little special videos he made, and he revealed something that even with all of my research I have never come across, which is that the word Gael comes from an old Welsh form, from Old Irish, that means people of the woods.
What?
No way.
Yeah.
No
I
way.
mean, what?
That's unreal.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, surely more people should know this because it is so telling. You know, not only, you know, about what was done to the culture, and also what the modern Ireland still does to itself. And I don't want to go into any heavy conversation about woodland management, official woodland management, but go to any Sitka spruce plantation and see how much thriving life you find underneath those trees. So it's kind of mad, you know, that even the name of the people that you once were, or that you still are, I suppose, was people of the woods.
Wow.
And I think that needs to be brought back into awareness. And
Definitely.
yeah,
That's so cool.
there's
Definitely gonna have to get onto that. Hedge skills, you call it?
Skulls.
it's called Scarta, I think is the correct pronunciation.
It was booked out when I went to do it, but I'll get it next
It
time.
was, yeah, it sold out overnight.
Yeah.
And I was only able to get in it because they very kindly offered scholarships, partial scholarships afterwards, and they.
Oh, you were telling me about it.
They had a line. I told both of you, but I'll tell you here as well. They had a little line saying that they strongly encouraged people of color or LGBTQ plus. Don't know if I forgot that letter there. People to apply for the scholarship. So, amongst other questions, you know, about yourself and whatnot that you had to say on the application, I did say only because it seems like it's a very relevant factor. Let me make it very clearly that I'm a homosexual South American immigrant. Just so you know. And and I got in it, and I am thrilled about it because it's been an incredible journey. There's only 2 sessions left. I'm super sad about it, but it's kind of given me and I think I'm gonna, you know, I don't know, maybe they're listening here, but I will tell them once it's over. I'm gonna make it I have made it my personal achievement plan to become a fluent Gaeilgeoir and one day be on the other side of that. So not only manage the Irish, but also having become somebody worthy of having something to share as one of them guides, that the professional, spiritual, personal objective done. Because I just think the work they're doing is incredible. They are being very brave with the people they're bringing in. They are not shying away from accommodating some audiences, and it's the true, honest, proper way to go about it. So I have nothing but respect for what they're doing. Yes. Yeah, so it's a good time to be here. It's a good time to be alive, and it's a good time to be here doing all of this work. So
Fantastic.
thank you guys so much for the opportunity.
No worries, Santi.
Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, we usually end with.
Cormac likes to ask a few questions.
No, you ask one and you ask the other one. No.
Yes, do
so,
it.
I can't remember it.
I know yours anyway. What is your definition of success?
Oof. Definition of success.
Do you want to explain what it is?
I nearly did.
Daryl usually jumps in here and says,
I've had to cut it out on every podcast.
What is success to you?
Yeah.
What is success to me? I would say success is having become self-sovereign enough that that self-sovereignty can shine onto others and inspire others. I think it's being comfortable in that place of being you, understanding that you're only meant to be you. Big part of my growth in the last time has been about realizing that I don't need to become. It's not about becoming what I'm not. It's about dropping enough of the things I'm carrying that don't let me be what I already am.
Oh yes.
And that is changing a lot of the way that I'm relating to these things. So I think as long as I'm doing that, I'm being successful. As long as I'm managing to keep dropping whatever is in my way. You know, I don't need to be anything else than what I am. I already am fully developed and perfect. It's only that I'm not letting myself be. An expression of that. So I suppose that's
a great answer. Yeah, that's a beautiful way of putting it.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks very much, Santi. I'm not going to ask another question, and that's a great way, I think.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
The other one was what advice would you give to your teenage self? Younger self.
Oh Jesus.
Just
many?
one thing.
Just the one. Just the one. The main one would definitely be, lad, you're grand. 95% of the things that you will be stressing about for the next 20 years, they won't come to pass. And you got this, you know, like you won't feel like you're trusting yourself, but you are. So, you know, you're grand. I guess that's what I would.
Yeah, that's good advice.
say.
Yeah, cheers, Santi. Thanks very
Guys,
much.
this has been
man.
amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for.
It was a
Sorry,
pleasure
almost
listening to you there, and I'm sure hope everyone else enjoys it as much as I did.
Thank you everybody for listening, and yeah.
And
cheers
thank
to-
you for
cheers
the
to more.
nettle tea as well.
Thanks for the tea, yeah, lovely tea.
Okay, thank you.
Tough Alcha.
Falter Road.